Hey everyone, I'm Red, and today I'm going to be ranking all 5 Jurassic Park movies from worst to best in anticipation for the new one coming out in a few days. Before I start, let me say that as a kid I was a huge fan of this franchise, and there is a ton of nostalgia from when I was younger. So let's get started. Coming in last place is Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom. This movie was kind of a bummer to me, if I'm going to be honest. But before I jump into my negatives, let's start with some good things about the movie. Its opening scene is great with a giant fish dino from Jurassic World escaping into the open world, even though it has literally no payoff in this movie. Claire's character progression was a nice touch. She was actually a real human in this movie. It does a great job of making me care about the dinosaurs. I honestly teared up when the Brachiosaurus was left on the island to die. The scene where Chris Pratt was paralyzed, crawling away from the lava, was absolutely great. The movie's got kind of a cool horror vibe, though it's not really scary, but it still kind of got the vibe in the last third of the movie. And the ending was interesting setup for the future, though kind of silly. The action in the movie was pretty solid throughout, but that about does it for the positives. This movie's story is full of plot holes, and I'll expand on that in a future video. The park being built on a volcano, the company trying to make money cloning dinosaurs when they could have just cloned humans years ago. The dumb villains drove me nuts, and it sucked that they kind of lacked any satisfying comeuppance. They just feel like they didn't get off scot-free, but I don't know. They didn't get what was coming to them. The music felt like a shell of the previous movies, just kind of sampling on what was done better before. The setting doesn't lend itself well to the series. I don't know why we're putting dinosaurs in a house. Chris Pratt's character just completely flip-flopping ideologies was so annoying. Claire's made sense. His was just idiotic. He now dislikes dinos and has no sympathy for any animals and doesn't care if they live or die. Bringing back Ian Malcolm was completely a total waste. He had no reason for being in this movie. The little girl being a clone twist was not interesting at all. I called it as soon as they gave the first hint, and it was way too obvious. This movie was just not good. I tried to get into it, but I just wasn't invested in what was happening at all. It lacked the heart of the franchise. In fourth place is Jurassic Park 3. The only movie in this franchise I've actually seen in a movie theater, and even as a kid I walked out of it like, this movie wasn't very good. This movie had more heart, but lacked the likable characters and fun. But that doesn't mean it's devoid of good moments. The cage sequence with the flying dinosaurs was great and something fun and new that they added to the series that we've never seen before and always kind of wanted. The meta story bringing Alan Grant back was pretty funny and made a lot of sense. And we got some good action from the dinos all around. The raptors had some fun things to do. The new big bad dino was really cool, even though he killed the T-Rex so easily. Kind of pissed me off. I think the kid character was absolutely great. Surviving on his own that long, you got to give some cred. He's a badass, and I wish we would have maybe seen him in some of the future movies. That would have been cool. The setting is really good. Anytime you just have dinosaurs out in the forests running around with people, can't go wrong there. The Rain River scene was really well done and is super exciting and holds up incredibly well. The story isn't too bad, and I can get into it for the most part, going to rescue a son from some people who duped Alan Grant and going back to the island. Like, I can roll with it. It doesn't completely jump the shark. This movie has the silliest moment of the whole series with the talking velociraptor in the dream sequence saying Alan. I want to know who made that decision. Like, I hope they got fired and they never work again. That is the dumbest thing in the world. The Billy character being a parachute expert had absolutely no sense. It was extremely silly. Tia Leone's character was probably the most annoying character in the whole series. Just her running around the island screaming and being dumb, and I wanted to strangle her and wish she would have gotten eaten by dinosaurs. I'm so pissed she got off scot-free. William H. Macy's greatness seemed wasted. He had nothing fun to do in this movie. It was just, he looked bored. It was such a disappointment. Looking back on this movie and knowing that how great of an actor he is, and he didn't get to show any of it. The movie lacked a real human villain, which is a constant theme throughout all the movies, and it was just kind of a disappointment that they didn't include anything there. I think it has the weakest characters in the whole franchise. There's, besides Alan Grant, there's not really a memorable, like, you don't know anybody's name in this movie. I guess you do know Eric and Ben characters, but I don't think that counts because they just scream it on a megaphone over and over again. It made me very angry that they brought back Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler and they weren't together anymore. That was how the first movie ended, and you completely wasted that. That was so stupid. The opening scene makes no sense with the people just disappearing on the boat. There's still no explanation on what happened to them. Like, what the hell? This movie doesn't have the biggest plot holes, especially compared to some of the other movies, but it's just kind of bland and unmemorable. It's not a fun rewatch. It was very tough placing this one on the list, though. Before I jump into my top 3, please drop your own rankings down below and consider liking and subscribing. It would really mean and help me out a lot. In third place is Jurassic World. I have very mixed feelings about this movie. I really want to like it, but I just can't get over how silly the franchise went, and even though the third movie started to signal lack in quality, Jurassic World had a chance to start over and create something truly epic. And though this movie is epic in ways, it is also truly dumb at points. But let's get to some positives before I tear this one apart. The dinosaurs in this movie create the most dynamic emotional response in all the movies. I was rooting for them and felt bad when they died or failed. It honestly had me tearing up at points, and any movie that can do that gets some real respect in my books. The action is pretty solid with some cool set pieces. The pterodactyls breaking out and causing chaos. All the scenes of the dinosaurs fighting each other were great. The three-way fight with the surprise fourth guest was amazing at the end. The new park looked really cool and it was a great setting. I wanted to honestly visit it. But this is the definition of an expensive sci-fi movie. But that's not completely a bad thing. Some of the human characters are fun, including Nick from New Girl, Chris Pratt's character, and the two kids weren't horrible, and they have some great moments. But there's also way too many dumb characters for me to stomach in one film. I like the dinosaur characters way more than any human character, and that's not a good thing in a Jurassic Park movie. And when you combine dumb characters with a dumb story full of plot holes, it combines for an absolute mess. This video would be way too long if I listed them all. You have a giant fish dinosaur jumping out of its cage at the end when he could just do that at any time and eat all the customers. The horrible security at this billion-dollar park, outrunning a T-Rex in heels. Claire's character was so annoying, and I hated that the movie tried to make her a hero at the end. The plot of turning raptors into military weapons made me want to tear my hair out. In second place is the original Jurassic Park. Just kidding, I wouldn't do that to everybody. Lost World Jurassic Park is my second pick. I had this movie on repeat with the original so often as a kid, so it has a great amount of nostalgia for me. As much hate as people give this movie, I don't think it's all deserved. There are some great moments throughout, along with a pretty good story. The acting is really good. There's some nice character arcs. The movie still had a grounded, realistic, serious vibe that I want my Jurassic Park movies to have. Even if the T-Rex in the city sequence felt kind of forced, it was still really cool to see. You have the RV scene, the Velociraptor chase, so many cool moments in this movie. And this movie has, without a doubt, the best death scenes in the whole series. The scene with the compies wearing the despicable character down was great. All the villains in this movie have a great comeuppance, and it's very satisfying to see. The baby dinosaur getting his revenge at the end had me cheering. This movie does the best job of juggling multiple human villains, and they all work well together. Including the lead hunter character who turned into an anti-hero villain because the other surviving villains from the island were so bad. I ended up kind of liking him a little bit. This movie has the best balance between human and dino characters, making us love and hate characters and animals on both sides. The dinosaurs all still look great and hold up well. The music is wonderful and has this original vibe that is super memorable. People like to complain about Ian Malcolm's character being so different, but it made total sense to me, and I can get into that in a future video. The child character was done well and believable, even though she was still annoying, but I feel like that's just a child character in any movie. The movie has a ton of positives in my book, which is why it's so high on my list, but it does have some issues. There's some weird plot holes that don't make a lot of sense. There's a miraculous new island with dinos that was never mentioned before. Ian Malcolm character's random kid, he never mentioned, and her scene doing gymnastics to defeat a velociraptor was hysterically dumb, but too dumb. The movie's probably a little long, but keeps moving swiftly enough and kept me entertained throughout. Maybe it's the nostalgia on this pick, but I still think it holds up very well. Let me know if you disagree. So coming in first place is the original Jurassic Park. This is no surprise. I think if anybody doesn't rank this number one on their list, I want to know why. I really want to know why. I'm not sure what can really be said. This movie is fucking awesome. Everything about it. The setting at the park, memorable, likable, and evil characters, dinos, music, action, story, incredible effects, the character arcs. All these things are probably at the best in the whole franchise. It set the standard for the series and how great filmmaking is done, and they've never been able to quite live up to it since. I'll be doing a more long-form discussion with Lumi on these movies in another video because we could talk all day about this series. I was trying to show some restraint and not be too winded today, so if you don't want to miss those, please subscribe. If you want more Jurassic Park videos or have any rankings of your own, let me know in the comments below. And I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It helps keeps the dream alive. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching.